Welcome to the Radical Rhythm Podcast. This has been created for those of us that love radical women who live perhaps by the rules, but also question and challenge the status quo. We want more from our lives, to enjoy our sexuality, to explore radical thought, and to celebrate women who have lived and continue to live unconventional lives. Hi, I'm Dr. ToniBearEdd, sexologist, educator, activist, and definitely a radical woman. Thank you for joining me as I share stories of women challenging the status quo and living life to the fullest. Join me as we unapologetically march to the beat of a different drummer together. Well, welcome to the Radical Rhythm Podcast. Today I have my newest friend, Elizabeth Gueldner, is here, and we have a story to share with you. And I say we because it's not just me today. So welcome, Elizabeth. Where are you in the world?
Thank you for having me on here. I am in Austin, Texas.
I'm up in Pennsylvania. And, I don't know if this has happened to you, but during this internet kind of age, during this COVID pandemic, I've met people from all over the country. And you're one of the most special people that I've met in the last couple months. And isn't it amazing? Have you been able to connect with people that you wouldn't have before?
Absolutely. I wasn't even this connected on social media before all of this. And then now I'm meeting all these fabulous women like yourself that we would have never connected, right? Because we're in two different states, but we met through social media. So yeah, it's just been a really eye-opening, wonderful experience to find reroute, right?
Right. And we've met both, and this is a new place for me, being in the field of business. I've been an educator, I still am a professor, but this world of business is new to me. And I hooked right into your friendship because you have so much experience in this field. And you said you got started at like 19 years old in business?
Well, yes, it was kind of crazy town, but I was in college and I was reached out to by a friend. We were waitressing and she reached out to me about an opportunity and I decided to go for the interview and started at barely 20, like 1 month into 20.
Wow. Well, this story today is going to be about resiliency. And when I heard your personal story and everything that you've been through to get where you are today, I think maybe there's some lessons here that we all can learn from about resiliency. So, after you went into business at 19, did everything just shoot up? Did your business just take off? What was it like in the beginning in business?
Well, so it was very difficult, very challenging because it was in the insurance industry. And being 20 years old, 19, 20, how would I know much about that? So I went home. I'd already moved out from my parents' house after high school. And I went home to share that I was looking at this opportunity. And first thing out of my dad's mouth was, no, you will not be a salesperson. You will not go do that. You will finish college. This is not what you're going to do. So I go back and I tell him I'm not going to join your organization. He said, well, why not? You said you were going to sit out this semester anyway. And I thought, well, he goes, what's your reasoning? And, I'm so young. I go, well, my dad didn't think it's a good idea. Anyway, fast forward, he said, why don't we try it? So I did. And I was there 19 years. And let me tell you what, it was like, here I am, this 20-year-old girl trying to talk to retired colonels about why they needed long-term care, nursing home, home care insurance. And they're looking at me going, and how old are you? But I knew with my heart, I believed that because it was real, it could really happen, that their kids aren't going to take care of them, and Medicaid and Medicare and all had all the objections. I knew all the objections and I always answered them before they got to them. So I was very successful in that career. I was agent of the year 2 times, not just of the region, of the whole entire company, first female, youngest female twice, and there 19 years. And then my career ended. And it ended because I had a tragic accident, which is what you were going to allude to. I had a brain injury and I had to take off a year because I, like you and I have talked about, sometimes don't know where we're here to there to whatever. And it was very traumatizing on top of coming back to my career. And then I'm no longer an asset. I'm now a liability.
Mm.
So that career ended. And that was my identity. That was my whole entire 20. That means I'm now 39. That was my whole entire identity. I didn't even know how to recreate myself, how to pick myself up. I also was going through a separation. My animal got run over. I lost my job, all right at the time I turned 40.
Oh,
So yeah, I didn't know what to do. But I knew I wasn't going to go back into insurance. So I had to recreate myself I was going to the club where I live and taking Pilates, and the teacher wanted to take off, and everybody said, oh, Elizabeth can teach it. So I recreated myself to be a Pilates instructor.
wow. Well, see, that's, I think, well, not that I'm a Pilates instructor, but yeah, I think that's where I started to really connect with you is a year ago, I had a brain injury as well. And the strange part was not being me anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone can understand that unless they go through that experience. Can you talk a little bit about it sounds like your identity was mostly being a successful saleswoman. And then was it just career or was there more to it than that?
Well, I actually was writing a book at one time about the woman that lives the two lives, because my personal life was not successful and my business life was. So talk about a woman that was being engaged so many times in my 20s, trying to figure out my personal identity in my life. So here I'm super successful, here I'm not. So, but that drove me to be successful over here. And so my career was something I knew I could control. And I don't know how I knew that, because I didn't have any idea I was sales oriented or would be successful. But even when I got into Pilates, the whole club didn't have the whole Pilates organization at the club. So I recreated the whole organization and brought it all to the club and created the studio. And I was there for 14 years. So very, very successful. Again, that's my personality, I guess, to just keep going and pick myself up. And no matter what kind of boss I had, because unfortunately, both of them were very, very similar. Both were very big micromanagers. So the same thing happened at the second career, that me and him just finally couldn't do it anymore. So here I found myself once again without a career. And that was just 3 years ago.
Wow. And when you said that the career was working well, but the rest of life wasn't, what are you referring to? You said you were engaged many times. That's successful? Or I don't even know if that's on the success wheel at all.
Yeah, no, I ended up getting married once when I was 34 for 5 years, and it wasn't successful. And I haven't been married since. I don't know. I think that sometimes we're a product of where we come from, and we have things conditioned inside of us, like, the whole dysfunctional family thing. And no, I'm not blaming my family, but I did get residual stuff. So I guess you could say, like people say their picker's broken, mine was broken. And I just was making some really poor choices with men based on thinking that they could help fill this unfulfilled need inside of me. So instead of just looking within and thinking and knowing that I could fulfill that unfulfilled need.
Right. That by itself makes you a woman who marches to a different drum. Do you think most women feel that way, that they are whole by themselves and they're looking for another whole person? Or do you think in this 21st century, people are still looking for the other half of the personality they haven't developed or the identity they haven't fully developed?
I'm finding more and more stronger women during this last 2 years. It amazes me that women are like, nope, I can do this. I can figure it out myself. I don't need my identity through somebody else. And it therefore makes the women who have not been in their life become stronger. And since I've been single now for a while, I have learned, and I always was my own person's success. I mean, I never needed a man to survive financially, but there was that other part that was missing. So now since I've always had the successful side, now I'm growing into the me side as well. So those two people can match, because living parallel lives for so long is really interesting in itself.
One of the things about the brain injury in myself is this is what my therapist tells me anyhow. She says You used to be, Toni, superhuman, that you're just so smart. Well, I pay her to give me all sorts of compliments.
Yeah.
And I tell my wife I paid to have a friend. And so she says that since the brain injury, yes, I've slowed down and my cognitive processes have slowed down. But she said, now you're normal like everybody else. And that maybe you can understand other people
I can
better. And
understand it.
I never saw myself that way. What I see myself is I'm used to hitting deadlines for different projects and I can't do it as fast as I did. And I found that I went into a depression, like a deep depression. They had to give me meds. And that was a residual effect of the brain injury.
Yeah.
And yeah, I cannot wait to retire from the university now so I can spend more time on me
I
and feel
love
more
it.
well-rounded, right?
Yeah, because mine was 2001, my brain injury, and there's still things that are residual. I mean, I was so type A and could get things done like you're talking about. And then when you can't, I mean, I went through all the things that you're the depression, all the things and all the medication they put you on because you don't know what's wrong with you and you're trying to figure out. And back then, neurologists really didn't know. I got accepted into a study here at UT for traumatic brain injury. And I finally went, oh my gosh, somebody does know what's going on. But when people can't explain to you and you know you're different and something is happening, but in a way, like you said, for the good, because I don't know if I want to say for the good, but it allows in retrospect to be able to step back. I mean, that job ended. And if that job hadn't ended, I wouldn't have created who I am today and all the things I've had today, right? Because that job probably wouldn't have ended and it needed to because it was very toxic. So bad comes good, and we have to, and I know you and I look at it like that way. And I've often been so intrigued with the brain and often wanted to do groups and put things together because I feel it's still very misunderstood, even though that was 2001 when mine happened.
Hmm. And your boss calls you resilient now. What does he mean by that?
Well, so that's interesting because, well, fast forward when Pilates ended, I was searching for a wellness center and I was going to get several different modalities with me besides Pilates. And I found a facility that needed some serious renovation. And I was going to look at the paper the weekend, and then on Monday, social distancing hit. So thank you, God, that I didn't do that, but because I would have been stuck. All of a sudden, now my clients that are coming to my private studio, which is in my back room back here, this is a whole nother, this is the business I'm doing now. But now my clients aren't coming to see me anymore, right? So now what do I have to do? Reinvent myself again. So I have to learn how to teach virtual Pilates. And at the same time, Savvy, this business dropped into my lap. And you're talking about the owner, because with Savvy, we're all our own business. So we can run it however we want, right? So his name is Ken Porter. I was just there in Utah about 3 weeks ago for what we call Fashion Friday. We have a show of all people, all different ages and sizes that get on there and show what we're having released this week. So I was on there and I was honored, and him and I had a meeting and he wanted to know my story. And lo and behold, we have a similar background. He was in insurance as well. He knows that kind of personality. And if you can be successful, he knows that kind of thinking. So he is the one who called me resilient. He said, I know what kind of brain you have, because if you can do that kind of industry, you're one resilient woman.
Right, right. The many of the women I know in insurance, get very, very unhappy over time. And I don't know what's in that injury or injury. Yeah, what's in that industry, but I certainly don't want to know because I see the word injured came to me because I see women just kind of emotionally injured. And I thought, I don't know what they're doing, but I don't want to know, I guess.
I think if I would have stayed in it, so again, I'm thankful that I got out. It was definitely so toxic. And when I was in it, it was a men's environment, and so for a female my age to make agent of the year over all these men, it was like, oh, she's sleeping with the boss and all that. I had to live all that. And what's so strange, the psychology of things like that is all that fire fueled me. See, so that's the thing, even though it's negative and I don't like that in my life, but it fueled me to do more and to say, I'll show you. I'll be even more resilient because I'll be even better next year or tomorrow. So yeah, I mean, all of these, and the boss that I had at the country club when I was creating, no matter how strong I got, he kept wanting to knock me down. And I thought, the more you try to knock me down, the more I'm going to be resilient and the more I'm going to fight for what's right.
I saw a statistic today, just reading through something, and it said that three out of every 3 out of 4 women that are in the workplace experience some kind of bias, but only 1 out of 3 women recognize that other people are biased towards them or that there's sexism in their industry. And you
So,
not only saw it and recognized it, it motivated you.
yeah, it's kind of strange. And most people would be like, why didn't you get out of that career much sooner? The first one, why didn't you get out of the second one much sooner? But I didn't. And I guess there's so many facets to that we could talk on and on and on for. But now here I am, totally my own boss. There's nobody telling me, trying to squish me or micromanage me. And I can talk about my clothes whenever I want to anybody I want. I can teach whenever I want. And it's really unusual because of the whole entire life I've spent people trying to control me. We're in the business industry, right? So now it's like, okay, don't try to create some kind of drama over here. It's all going good.
Right. So would you say that you were always athletic? You were always in shape? The Pilates, like where did that come from?
Well, I've always gone to the gym, and as a young woman, we all thought we were fat. My body image was really not good, and I thought it was unattractive. I had an eating disorder for quite a long time in my life. Again, this all goes back to my family, just stuff that was ingrained in me, that was coming out in actions other ways. So I've always gone to the gym and stuff, but no, Pilates was just because I was taking it at the club and she was going to take off that summer. And everybody said, well, why doesn't have Elizabeth teach it? She's got great form. So I initially went and got a weekend certification thinking that's how you teach. Oh
Right.
gosh, no. This woman came up to me and said, and I was teaching in class, or so I thought, I don't think you know what you're doing. Someone's going to get hurt. And I was like, what? So she said, look, I'm going to bring you a book and I'm going to let you read all about it. And I'm looking at this book going, I have no clue what I'm reading. So I could have done 2 things. I could have said, well, I don't want to do this. I'm not going to do this because I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm going to learn what I'm doing. Once again, recreate myself, be resilient. And so I went through formal education and got formally educated and certified to be comprehensively certified to teach. So I wasn't just doing a weekend certification. So no, I haven't always been in Pilates. It's evolved for me.
The reason I ask is because um, I cannot believe that I am partnering with a clothing company. Now I'm just releasing this. This is brand new information for anybody listening to the podcast this week. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see that Elizabeth just held up a bottle that says Savvy, SAVVI. And the reason I can't believe that Dr. ToniBearEdd and all of my courses and workshops and retreats will be partnering with the brand Savvy, but also the Radical Rhythm podcast will as well. And the reason I say I can't believe it is because I've always been, I'm just going to come out right now, a tomboy. I wear, well, you can see, I wear sweatshirts and shorts. We can't see the shorts part on YouTube, or sweatpants. And, I hardly have my hair brushed here. It's the natural look that I have. And clothing never meant anything to me. In fact, clothing actually upset me because of body image, and especially trying clothes on, that I would go through an emotional process that was just not positive. And as a sexologist, as someone that works with women, I realize that it's not just me that feels that way, that I want to be healthy, I want to be active, and I want to be beautiful. And I know I am. However, that doesn't mean, just like you said, Elizabeth, that old records play in your head from being a child on up. And I think a partnership with a clothing company, especially this one, Savvy, that has a lot of activewear for people who want to work out, is the perfect partnership for me.
I'm just so thankful that I've met you. And honestly, you just joined Savvy on Saturday. So we've become fast friends, right? And I'm so excited about that with you because you also went and did your first order Saturday night. So you're obviously going to get into this. And we are so much more than just a clothing line. I mean, yes, we do have Fit Line, and this is mostly my Fit Line. We don't have to carry inventory. We're not that kind of company, but this is my clothes. But we also have Everyday and Luxe, so something for everybody. Like I layered this top on top of a cute sports bra and leggings that match, and this is more like an everyday top. But it's also so much about our community. And I know that's what you saw because we're all about empowering women, come as you are, just as you are, be you. And I think that's just like huge for so many of us today. And I didn't know I was missing community until I became part of Savvy. And then you and I became fast friends on Saturday and didn't realize, look at what we've already got going. That's what I mean about community. We all care about each other and we all care about how we feel. And I have seen women, because we go up to 3+ size, I have seen women that put on our clothes and their confidence totally changes because the way the clothes fit on them, they smooth out lumps and bumps and all that on any size, but just the way they feel in the clothes. And we're not a weight loss company, but a lot of women have just been shrinking because they feel so good. They want to go to the gym or they want to eat differently. So I'm just so thankful to be part of this industry, this movement with Savvy, and for you to have joined me. I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, well, thank you too. I went online, of course, I checked you out and I checked out the company and I saw women smiling, but more than that, I saw women that look like me. I didn't see models and I didn't see the saleswomen looking like department store kind of Barbie dolls. And there were real people. And if a clothing line is going to have consultants and not in a department store selling this a different way, and with real people selling to real people, I think it's a perfect match for Dr. Toni Bear and all that I do because I am all about helping women find their sexy self and expressing it and satisfying their fantasies and feeling good in their own skin. And that's what Savvy is about as well.
Yeah, I mean, it goes with your mission and what you stand for so well. And I'm just, like I said, so grateful that we met. And I don't think it was a happenstance. I think it was definitely a reason. Obviously, we're here and we both want to help so many people and help share because, I don't know when I'm reaching out, like when I reached out to you, I don't know who is looking for an opportunity like this, who needs community or who needs to make a few extra dollars or who just really wants to wear some cute clothes for wholesale. You don't know, but the point is I love to share that this is available for people who might want something. So, because the whole world is wearing these clothes, right? We're buying them and purchasing them, whether it's a t-shirt, we have t-shirts too. I'm wearing kind of a t-shirt. We're buying clothes from someplace. Why not monetize what we're doing? And let's face it, in 4 years, and this is not a Savvy statistic, athleisure industry will be a $280 billion industry in just 4 years.
Right.
That's what's also happened during the pandemic, right? People started shopping online and not so much brick and mortar. Yes, there is brick and mortar, but everything is online, not brick and mortar. So that's how we're able to keep the price point way below other premium athleisure companies.
I'm just so happy about this. You had no idea when you messaged me that I was looking for two affiliates, two affiliations with two businesses so that I could have sponsorship for my podcast. And I put it out in the universe, but I didn't tell any human beings. And two partners showed up in the same week. And Elizabeth, I am thrilled to have met you, and I'm looking forward to what we're going to do in the future together. Do you have any advice for our listeners about resiliency and self determination to reinvent yourself?
If you knew all the insecurities that I've had my whole life, it may look like I appear to be strong, right? On the outward. The inward was always a very afraid child, a woman. So for me, just doing the action sometimes was very difficult, but I knew who else was going to do it, right? Who else was going to pick me up and dust me off but me? And honestly, I did that through some of the hardest things in life, the hardest times in my life, because we've only surfaced on just a few things. Like we all have so many things going on and our lives are so great, but when you look at the big picture of things, who else is going to do it? If I didn't pick myself, think about going from a insurance lady to, talking about long-term care, nursing home care insurance, the most intangible subject you can talk about in my 20s, a long time ago, that people weren't even caring about, thinking about, you're protecting their money, to going from, well, I forgot to tell you, in between all that, I designed high-end handbags when I was trying to reinvent myself. So I designed high-end handbags, and then to a Pilates teacher, instructor, then to, oh my gosh, a savvy. I mean, it's like, those are very different modalities. So, but the point is, I didn't say, oh, woe is foe. I did about something, sure, but I just said, I'm going to pick myself up. And I think one thing that stuck in my brain is when I moved out, when I graduated from high school, and I was 18 years old when I graduated, my dad looked at me and said, if you move out of here, you will never be able to move back in here. Now you can see why some of the dysfunction, right? And I said, guess what? I'll work at McDonald's first before I'll ever. And I haven't had to work at McDonald's, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I knew that I had to survive. Mm-hmm. And I knew I did. So no matter what it takes, I will figure it out to survive.
Yeah. And this period of time during the pandemic, so many people have had to make that same decision as to, now what am I going to do? Right. So yeah. I'm sure some of our listeners are thinking the same thing. It's hopefully we're towards the end of the pandemic. But so many of us, I'm going to ask you one more bit of advice before we go today. So many of my listeners and those that I meet, especially my students, I have conversation after conversation with them about depression and anxiety and this uncertainty of what the future might hold or where we're going. You had this motivation. You explained that, you're going to survive. But do you remember, or how do you kind of cope with uncertainty, like not knowing what's coming next? Faith in oneself?
I have a lot of faith. It was never really, I was thinking about this the other day. It's an interesting question, because I don't know how I didn't have any doubt when I was in my 20s for 19 years, because that was straight commission, 100% commission. But I did it. And I had no question in my mind that the people I was talking to could possibly need a nursing home, possibly could happen. I was protecting their assets. I had no doubt in my mind. I had no doubt in my mind that I was now protecting people's health with Pilates. not so much the other way around, but now I'm protecting your health to keep you out of a nursing home with Pilates. So now here I am, reinvented again, and, talking to people about clothes and athleisure clothes. And it's like, okay, so how does that really help people? You know what does? What it does? It's the opportunity. It's the community. It's the fact that lives are changing through a pair of leggings, which has nothing to do with the pair of leggings, right? It has to do with the opportunity. And knowing that, I'm able to tell myself, no matter what, you've done it your whole life. You will do it no matter what the uncertainty is. You will do it and you will survive always, because there isn't really a choice. And I think when people have that kind of faith, and I don't know what a lot of people's faith is, and I think when you realize that we all have it in ourselves, no matter what the insecurities are, no matter what the fears are, we all do have it in ourselves to be successful. It's just a matter of believing in ourselves and saying, I deserve it. This is my shot too. I deserve it. So ask for help. The whole world, not the whole world, but a lot of the world, like you and me, are here to help people.
Right. Well, bravo. It's wonderful. I thank you so much, Elizabeth, for coming today and making this big announcement for my listeners that we're going to be tagging Savvy on the Radical Rhythm podcast, and we'll put a link below if you're interested in the company and maybe working for the company. But for me, it's not working for the company. It's about the clothing and the community. I'm going to buy leggings. I need leggings. I don't have enough, and I keep changing sizes. So, I have quite the wardrobe, and it all doesn't fit. So I will be buying some stuff. Elizabeth, thank you so much. And I look forward to doing this again online when we have more to tell our audience.
I'm super excited. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Thank you for listening to the Radical Rhythm podcast today. It has truly been my pleasure to invite guests and talk to you about my passion, the joy in our sexuality, and radical women who march to the beat of a different drum. If you'd like to work with me, Dr. Toni Bear, I have a community where I give seminars every month. I also have a coaching program, both group and individual, and also a course, a self-directed course, because it's all about experiencing the joy life has to offer. I'd love to work with you. Check out my link below, www.ToniBearEdd.com. See you next week, and don't let anyone dim your shine.